Today our first speaker is Eric. Eric is a very expensive speaker. We actually engage him for our fractional support on one of our programs. So we actually have to pay him to consult our mentors. So today you're very lucky. Please feel free to ask him any questions. Otherwise, you have to catch him on a paid basis.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Actually, it's a small crowd, but I was told to speak over the mic so that the Zoom participants can also hear what I'm saying. So maybe I need to share my screen, if you don't mind, so that I can get this started and proper. So my name is Eric C in particular. My company is Visionary Partners. We are a fractional CFO solutions provider to startups and SMEs. A bit about my background has Yvonne has sort of kindly introduced it in a unexpected way. For me, I am actually, my background is in finance and accounting and finance. I studied accounting and finance in SMU, graduated, and then I went to take towards the buy side or the investment route. So from graduation till now, I've always been doing investments. So what is an investor? It's like for startups, it's equivalent to your venture capitalist. For more mature companies, it is your private equity investor. So I did all throughout the whole spectrum in a company's life cycle. So today I am giving a workshop. I don't charge for this. So just FYI on pricing strategy. So what is, I guess, let me maybe move on to the agenda. But maybe to shape the contours of what pricing is. Pricing, if you first you hear it, is actually within the domain of sales and marketing, right? When you talk about in business theory, there's the 4 P's or 5 P's. So it's actually the domain of a marketer. So why is it so important for pricing? And am I, also you might be wondering, am I sort of the best speaker to share about this? However, as I walk through the slides, later you will come to understand that pricing is actually multifaceted, and actually it hits bottom line, or it hits something that as a founder you'll be very you want to know about. As an investor, you will want to know about. So I do have some perspective. Today I also have a guest speaker. I bring him on board. Later I'll introduce him, because I thought that since this is a training workshop, you guys want to spend an hour to benefit from this episode. So it shouldn't just come from me. I think having different perspective will enrich sort of your takeaways today. So today, this is our agenda. It's a 40 to 45 minutes presentation comprising of introduction, how to develop a pricing strategy, implementing it, and to me, what is important is evaluating the effectiveness or measurement of it, because then you will know how to tailor and refine your pricing strategy. We'll go to a conclusion, and then we will dive next to the case study, which I will work with my joint speaker over there, Anthony, in showing you 3 case studies of how this can be applied. Feel free to ask any questions, even with the online audience as well, at any point of time. Happy to answer. So I start off by maybe asking the audience, pricing. So what is pricing? Consider these questions. So what are some of the most common pricing models you know? Anyone? I can chime in. Yeah. Yeah, subscription. Some more? Licensing, yeah. Transactional, you have a product, you sell it to the consumer pays you, right? What others? Usage, yeah. What about, yeah. Yep, exactly, good. Shared profits in what sense? Yeah, so, yeah, sounds, what about, yep, interesting point of view. What about Grab, Airbnb? What are they? Marketplaces, right? They take a certain take rate. Sorry? Yeah, commission, or sometimes people call it a take rate. Yeah. So just a couple of questions just to warm us up, right? Like if you're launching a new product, how will you think about pricing? What strategy will you use? How do you respond to a competitor when I'm assuming most of us are all startup founders. If you see a competitor lowering a price, what will you do? So there's no one answer to it, right? It depends on your context and in a sense what are the environment, how the competitor is reacting, or the action of the competitor. And I think also maybe point 6, how do you communicate your pricing to your customers? Is there a way? Is there one way? Is there multiple way? No. So my point is, giving all this is a very wide topic. So a founder like yourself will have one response to it. A marketer will have one set of response to it. A CFO will also have a set of response to it. It depends on who you ask and the context of it. So pricing, to me, it's the first and foremost, my first point here, it is actually important because it is a crucial element to your business plan. To me, I don't go to the full details of exactly how do we do the pricing, but it affects the financial projection or your business plan projections. You get the pricing wrong, no matter how you sum up, it may not even make economic sense, right? So we look at it from an economic standpoint, or at least that's my position, and that will be how I will contextualize to most of today's workshop, from the position of a finance practitioner, or even to some extent, if I also am happy to share as an investor, right? More than simply covering costs and adding a markup, you want to consider business objective, target market, and perceived value, right? What's the outcome? If you get your pricing right, you get revenue growth, brand perception, sustainable brand perception. And I have many case studies. I would say stories to share. I wouldn't say case studies, but stories to share about people who get it right in the brand pricing right. You'll get good brand outcome as well, and competitive advantage to get profitability and long-term success. So my topic here, or the next slide, is about research, right? But from what my journey as a finance practitioner is that many founders approach it from a cost plus markup. Not wrong, or is it? Or there's multiple types, right? So as long as I cover costs, I charge a markup, I'm good. But is that what the market is asking for? Ask yourself that. Research and do some competitor analysis. At least that's what I would do, right? If let's say I go into a company, we have this topic at hand, right? I would say that I want to make decisions on data. So what are some of the market feedback on the price of my products? And also what are some of my peers that are doing, and how I intend to be different from them? And benchmarking, right? Stop me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. From my research, this is actually a distribution curve of the most successful startup that have gone through Y Combinator. So we see here that most of them are within, there's all this business pricing model, but most of them fall within these 3 buckets: SaaS, transactional, and marketplace, right? And then you have hard tech, usage-based, enterprise, advertising, and e-commerce. Why I bring this up? First, I'm not saying that when you create your company or when you consider pricing, you should fall into one of the most top 3. Like whether you are going for SaaS, marketplace, or transactional. No, you should look at what is most suitable, what is your environment that you are operating in, how are they pricing it, and then go and then trial and error and test and refine, right? But this is from data. Most of the successful companies that are going through Y Com, their pricing model is as such. Questions? Yeah, that's my next slide. So the question is, what's the difference between a transactional pricing model and an e-commerce pricing model? So it is more of a subset. Transactional, the general way of thinking about it is that you have a product, you transact, and then you get a fee. E-commerce is more on the online retail. Over here, I give a sort of a snapshot or overall description of what does each pricing model mean. Happy to answer any questions again. I hope that we want to make this useful session for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Right? As I said, the top three are SaaS model, transactional, and marketplace. Then followed by hard tech, usage-based, and enterprise, and advertising and e-commerce. But just even though I put this as a data point, please do not get misled. I'm not trying to say that you should fall into the top 3 or top 4, right? Because it's very multi-dependent. So ultimately, yeah, is there others? Is there a mixture of above? Just now, this gentleman over here said that, let's do a revenue share. What kind of business do that? Energy efficiency startups, right? I help the landlord save some power in his utilities from a sustainable angle. The landlord save $1, I split 20 cents. That's also a revenue model. I mean, that's also a pricing model or revenue model. Makes sense. So, or you can mix and match. It really depends on what is most suited for your company at any point of time. Okay, let me just also caveat that or contextualize that from a time dimension. Your pricing might work today, but it may not. It may need to evolve in the future as your business changes. I wouldn't say grow, because business can also come down. Okay, so YC group partner Aaron, I took this quote from him. Pricing can teach you how much value your product provides. So you also use that as a tool, right? Don't be an echo chamber. You think that if your product has certain characteristic or value proposition, you need to test it out, right? Test it out by how? Pricing. If you are successfully able to get price, people paying customers, you have a valuable product out to the market. Or in other words, what you guys heard, often the product market fit, right? So my perception, at least from a pricing strategy standpoint, take a value-based lens, right? And constantly refine and iterate. Okay, now implementation. This is just one, like I said, it's just one perspective, right? You may have a different approach depending on your background, your startup. This is how I generally look at it, right? Pricing strategy, how to implement it, right? So first is understand customer willingness to pay, what's the value that they receive. It could be the following things, deriving from customer needs, pain points, or even a competitor landscape. Are you saving money or saving time for the customer? And hence you price it accordingly. Are you improving efficiency or productivity, right? Or are you reducing risk or increasing security? And then try to contextualize of what is the perceived value that you can charge for, right? It's very linked to the value of company that a company offers. So why is it important to me? Because I'm very sensitive. To me, as a finance practitioner, I'm very sensitive over the value of a company. I want to take actions or avoid actions that destroy value. Yeah, and that's in a sense how I was built up. Like I grow and scale companies for, in a sense, has a professional capacity, right? So this is very sensitive to me. If you do it right, like I said, you demonstrate value, you build a brand, and you also attract the right target audience, right? So for example, and we have this in a case study later that Anthony will also share. Premium pricing signals quality, exclusivity. Competitive pricing, you're going mass market. Affordability and market share. This is a choice. There's no one defined approach, right? If you're coming here to think about like getting the ABCs or the A to Z about how to do pricing, I think this is not really the session for you. This is more towards trying to give you some contours about thinking about your respective startup, your respective company, how you're thinking about pricing, or whether what's your next few steps around this topic. So some considerations when you determine pricing strategy. First is what's your objective, right? Are you looking to maximize profit, increase market share, cover costs, or build a brand? Right? It's simple as that. There can be many other permutations. As simple as that. What's your cost structure? What's the profit margins? Is this profit margins similar to your closest competitor, or is it different? And why so? Is it because you're earlier stage, so you have a high is it because you're earlier stage, therefore you don't have the scale economics, and therefore your margins are considerably lower? Or is it because your competitor just have a technological advantage that producing every single unit just have a better cost than you? Then you need to, think about your pricing accordingly as well. And the third point, or the third consideration, is how near are you to the transaction? Okay, this is just sharing from experience, right? The nearer you are to the end customer, the stronger your ability to price. The further you are from the end customer, the tougher your ability to price. I heard from Yvonne, we are talking about B2B sales, right? So for those that's B2B to C, you are one step or at least two steps away from the customer. So then you want to think about what's your ability to price in that context. Okay, the nearer you are to the customer, the paying customer, the one who is receiving the value, the higher your ability to price. And that's also for my business as a fractional CFO. That's my model. I am near to the customer. I am the one doing the value, and hence I have the ability to price. Right? Are you thinking of one-off transaction, or are you thinking of recurring? Some consideration, this is more on a finance perspective, right? Like one-off, you require constant, like let's just say the third point. And happy to just talk about any other points over there in the three sub-bullet points in those two buckets, right? Like just taking one-off, if you're looking at a one-off transactional model, then you always have to build in sales effort, constantly fill in a pipeline. Does it maximize your lifetime value? Not a wrong answer, but if you can balance it out, right, your customer acquisition is low enough, why not? Or if the market is big enough, why not? Then you contextualize it to how fast are you going to versus your other peers or versus the environment, right? Recurring, you have predictability, but this is you guys may know the answer, but I just want to iterate that because just to highlight this key point. To do a recurring business model or a retainer model, you have to keep demonstrating that there's value to the customer. So for example, if you're a software startup, you are doing a subscription model, for example, Dropbox, right? Or Google Drive. You subscribe to it, let's say $10 per month, but you want to make sure that not only that they are able to get your files on the cloud, they're able to secure it, making sure there's privacy and security, but you can't be waiting for 1 to 2 years without having more features being rolled out by them. So flipping it the other way around, if you are Dropbox and you are adopting this recurring model, maybe you should think about what's your pipeline in generating more value to the customer. Because if you don't, you will get this term called the churn rate. And I looked at that very, very, for some types of company, I looked at that as an important metrics to evaluate. Question? Yeah. Not exact. Yes and no. Yes and no. Microsoft and Google, being an incumbent, also has to constantly innovate. If they don't, they will witness attrition. So it's not that they will flock to the incumbent, but they will flock to the next best alternative. As of you guys do as consumers, right? You will always try to see. Let's say, for example, now we are. Let me finish this. Let's say, for example, we are all on no contract SIM plans, right? If let's say your provider that you're using, and it happened to me, right? If it's the bandwidth is so bad, you just want to change because there's no further value. Yeah, there's no sticking point as well. So that's why, and they are charging me a subscription basis, right? Every month I need to pay for phone bills. But if they fail to demonstrate value to me, I will hop. Yeah. Question? Yep. 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 So no, like I say, no one size fit all. Some companies, they adopt a dual or multiple pricing model. They grandfather the old contracts. So if let's say you have early adopters, they are giving you at you give them at maybe like cost plus markup of 30%. Because that time you're adopting, which I say that's why many founders are looking at cost plus markup, right? That's you want to test market, you want to test recurring customer. Not wrong, not wrong for early stage of a journey. But what happens if you grow and then you start to realize that you want to price it to market? So there are situations whereby customers, the company will still discriminate, like in a sense, because they want to have loyalty. There are instances whereby they would migrate them to the new platform within a certain point of time. It's simple. A simple analogy is basically our Singapore GST, right? A few years ago, it was 7%. Then it goes to 8%. So they are charging us higher and higher, right? But what they do, everyone got swept under the new system, but they give subsidies, right? So a company also can take certain such measures. I'm not saying to follow it, but that's different. There's not just one way of slicing the cake. Yeah. The other way, in fact, actually is to depending on what your company is, but you can do a EOL, end of life service. So because your current subscription is outdated, like for example, not secure anymore, I have to migrate all of you into a new platform. This new platform charges this amount. So you no longer have that plan anymore. So that's also another way of thinking about pricing. Yeah. Did I answer your question? Any more follow-up questions? Yeah. Okay. So this is what I'll be looking at, like some cape. When you do any action, I think you need to be able to measure what get measured, at least from my humble opinion. You gets done, or you can actually improve and refine on it. So looking at revenue growth, I think the first metric I'll look at is to see whether your pricing strategy is effective is if you have revenue growth. You price a certain way, you can't achieve revenue growth over the past few months, you don't have product market fit. Either you don't have product market fit. I mean, yes, you don't have product market fit, but as a function of because the pricing. So revenue growth is a result of whether you're getting it right or wrong. So you tailor and go accordingly. Look at your CAC, right? You want to acquire new customers. If you are looking at a very sort of exclusive kind of pricing model, like, only the top 20% of your type of customers can pay for it, then you want to think about what's your CAC. Sometimes, like there's one example of a company that I was working with, right? I won't say who, but basically their CAC equals to their average order value. What does that mean? What does that mean? When your CAC equals to your average order value, let's say e-commerce, what does that mean? Average order value. That means the average order value of a customer. Some more? What about that? Yeah, definitely you're not making. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So first and one implication of that is that you're giving the product for free. The second hypothesis is that you are assuming that the customer will be a repeat customer. And this repeat customer, you need to understand whether how often will they purchase, the lifetime value context. And in that side, that's why metrics is very important. Because if you take this particular approach, you need to look at your churn rate. You need to look at the churn rate metric. So it's depending on whatever actions you take, there's certain metrics that you make sure you want to be very targeted on monitoring. Yeah. Okay. It happened before. I've seen it before. And the example the classic example is those platform companies, right? Grab and GoTo. Like just yesterday, they are reviving the talks of mergers because their marketing cost to acquire the customer to get on their platform just can't pay the not even the overheads of the platform, but the commissions and to the drivers and whatnot. Yeah. Okay, so there are many companies out there, I would say large companies that may not, in my opinion again, may not be obviously the best example to mirror. I'm not saying Grab isn't, they have a strategy, right? They have, from my observation, they have a strategy, right? But there are many others as well. Any questions? Okay, pitfalls. Or I want to flip this around to say, what should you do, right? You should start early. Just start early in thinking about this topic. You should think about whether you want to capture the full value of a product early on in your life cycle of your company. You may not. You may not. Right? Pricing should be flexible. You should be, flow like water. And this lower prices at long-term strategy is obviously this is a pitfall, but some companies do take that because that becomes a defensive mechanism to other entrants. If you price it so low enough, the next customer who, because you don't have technology advantage, right? The next customer will come in, they just can't hit your costs, so you'll eventually be priced out. Basically, that's a way to get rid of competitors. Keep it simple and don't price it based on cost. So my concluding slide, it's before we go into the case studies, it's research, revenue growth. Look at your revenue growth as a metric, and then refine, and then just do that cycle again. Not to reduce or dumb down the importance, is actually a critical strategic decision that can affect your startup success. You expose your product to the market at a certain price, consumer already anchor it to that price, regardless whether B2B or B2C. So you need to really think about that, right? And it should be adaptable and evolve as the market changes, whether is it COVID or non-COVID. COVID, a lot of F&B and hospitality companies like, they need to evolve. Yeah, they need to change their pricing strategy. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah. Yep. True. Yes. Yes. You price it to what the consumer is willing to pay. I mean, just this is my immediate feedback, right? There may be other examples, but if you think about price discrimination or price differentiation, in order you're trying not to create a dissonance among your paying customers or your would-be customers in trying to say that, hey, I can get your service somewhere cheaper at another jurisdiction. But this is a very classic example of e-commerce, right? Like, because e-commerce, depending on where you are situated, your tax is different. India, for example, there's multiple tax. You buy a similar software or computer in India, it's going to be more expensive than even Singapore, right? So, but would there be? But the thing is it easy? In this case, it is for the consumer to fly to another jurisdiction and purchase it and arbitrage. So let the customer do his maths. But to you as a founder, I think you should not put that as front and center, but focus on if you feel that you are able to price at a stage where some of your customers are willing to pay you, that's fair enough. And then you reevaluate from there, right? For example, if you already cream up your target to take the top 10% of your customer, you're already there. Then what's next? You want to go to your next 30%? You may lower price. You may you may do a partnership with other non-competitors and bundle, right? And conquer the market. So it's constantly iterating it. Like I said, pricing is a very general topic. And depending on how your situation is, your response will be maybe the same or different. Yeah. Any other questions? If not, we can go to the case studies. How are you on time? Okay, we are good. We are good on time. Yep, question. Oh, it's not a pricing model that your business. Can you elaborate what you mean by business? What your business needs? Yep. Yes. Sure. And why do you want? Why do you think that you should price based on usage? As a business, I'm assuming you're taking the head of a business owner. Yeah. Basically, you're trying to hedge it out against your variable costs. Because if you go which is a pricing strategy some companies do as well. F&B, for example, a la carte, eat all you can, first price. But how do they control the volume of each patron eating? If you have Zermatt coming in, you're dead, right? But this is a give and take, right? Every decision has certain consequences. Yeah, but it's not that it's a wrong decision, because if you can successfully price this eat all you can model, your competitors may try to figure out how you do it and still achieve success. Yeah. So yeah, question? Two questions. Yeah. Transparent. Mm. Okay, thanks for the question. This one out of my domain knowledge, Anthony. Like I said, this you want to give a step. Basically, the question is from a consumer psychology standpoint, is transparent pricing beneficial?
I believe in transparency, and that's the view of the market. I think nowadays everything is open. Everyone can see. If you apply psychology to your pricing, it's important to have transparency. Everyone knows, or will find out, right, at some point. So it can be double sword, right? If you want to optimize the value you get from your price, it's important to have a more long-term view, right, for your pricing strategy. So did I answer your question?
So that's why when coming to this workshop, I didn't choose a topic. I was given a topic. I don't want to set myself up for failure, so I better bring reinforcements. Question? Yeah. Sure. 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 Yep. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, you win on features. Yep. Yep.
Since we are much better than others, we can also put in the value that you deserve or you deserve. So that means it's much higher than the competitors' price. So that's a pros and cons. It's good that you margin, like that.
Yep.
Another thing is that probably a bit difficult to control.
Yeah. Yeah. So my question to you is, in this particular product or this industry that this company is in, what's the sales effort to get a conversion? Think about that. If let's say you want to go with differentiated pricing and sell based on features, what extent of that customer journey that you need to artificially sort of get them to convert? It's not to say that mirroring your competitor, you don't have sales effort, but if consumer are discerning, right? Like if I see $15 subscription per month and suddenly M1 throws me $12 just by advertising, the sales effort to get me to convert is lesser. So for me, I would take a a financial viewpoint, because when you talk about differentiated features, I'm assuming higher investment in terms of R&D and product development. So to this company, you need to overcome that as a first threshold as well. Yeah. And then are you taking it from the first hand pricing? I mean, because depending on pricing model, right? If it's transactional, then that's it. But if it's usage based, then you may, or there's many other types of features that you can price per use of sort. You can recover it from elsewhere. So it depends. You must consider it holistically and sum it up to see whether is this a viable business plan. That's why I said it's a crucial element in your business plan. You price it wrong, or you try to, let's say you're afraid that your market, your customer, the market won't accept your product because you're overpricing, you've priced it to your competitor. But when you churn it all in, you may not have a sustainable business. Maybe not now, because you may be well funded, but foreseeable future, right? Yeah. So because you're one step less to justify why you. No, no, that's not my that wouldn't be my experience as well. Like, you can increase price. You can increase price. That's fine. But if, for example, I mean, that's the strategy of all platform companies, right? They go in at a very cutthroat pricing, but eventually, if you're so sticky to them, they increase price or they increase take rate, you're gone. Let's say, for example, assuming all of you, some of you are in the Shopify, if I'm not Shopify platform, right? Yeah, I always confuse with Shopee. If they are so good and one day they decide to increase 1%, what can you do? Another example, but this is not a startup one, very interesting to share. Property, real estate. It's in Singapore. Property Guru last year, or what I heard, has increased their platform fees. So so basically their business model is that to the consumer, the home buyers, they don't charge you. They charge the property agent a listing fee. So they have been increasing this year on year. But if I'm the agent, what can I do? They are my lifeline towards getting my listings out there. So I'll pay. Mm. No. My point is that even if you take one approach, that doesn't preclude you from taking a subsequent different approach. Let's say, for example, you took option 2, right? Today, it doesn't mean option 1 is closed. You have ability to go back into option 1. That means your discriminatory pricing. That means you charge a premium and give higher premium features and justify it. Yeah, you might hit a certain like attrition rate because some customers are but those customers, you take a call as a strategy decision. Those customers, even customers that you want to work with. Yeah. Possible as well because you're doing anchoring, right? Yeah. Okay, case studies. Okay, before that, I have already introduced, but officially, I'd like to introduce Anthony from Ignition Studio. They are, why not? Okay, let me just introduce. They are basically a fractional CMO service provider, similar to myself, but I cover on a CFO side. So I let maybe Anthony come on stage and share more.
Thanks for inviting me, Eric, and US Enterprise. It's a pleasure to be here. I think it's a lovely day today to listen to this masterclass. So I'm Anthony. I'm the founder of Ignition Studio. It's a B2B branding advisory firm based in Singapore. As you can hear from my accent a little bit about myself, I'm French-born Chinese. Before founding Ignition, I was in the corporate world. I was leading the marketing function at Virtuos across the street, a gaming startup, Series D startup. And I've seen as a marketing leader the importance of partnering in finance for pricing. And I think we'll see in the case studies, but I think a lot of marketers underestimate the power of pricing for their marketing activation effort. So Eric and I, we're going to deep dive on some popular models. I think you've seen a nice presentation from Eric on popular models and popular case studies.
Just hit the
Yeah.
Yeah. So first, we have 3 examples today, but it's just to give you a flavor, right, of what pricing strategy means. First is Snowflake. So Snowflake, you know what they do. They are listed as well. Their model is basically good, better, tiered pricing, right? Tiered pricing and usage-based pay-as-you-go model, so that it's accessible to a wider range of audience and align costs. To me, if you are using usage-based pricing, I mean, to a finance application, first, it's more stable, right? Because and also you have upside for better and best tiers, right? But the second implication is that if you adopt this model, a usage-based model, from a revenue recognition standpoint, it may be a bit tricky. So you may need to think about how you want to. It's not a key point. I'm just saying, I'm putting all this because this is a potential finance angle of looking at it, but it's not a key, right? In my view, at least, right? Revenue recognition, we can always do adjustments later. And thirdly, by doing this pricing model, you have better data-driven decisions and optimize on how you do pricing, right? There's 2 slides for each case study. Never contextualize. 2 slides for each case study. First slide, I will introduce the case, the pricing model, and then the implication for finance. Then Anthony will come in to jump in on the perspective of a marketer. Yeah, hope that's clear.
So from a marketing standpoint, so usage-based pricing I've seen is a very popular model, especially in SaaS and AI startup nowadays. It's very good because one of the benefits is it's easier to adopt, right? As you know, not many startups can afford to pay the full price for some tier package. So you have lower friction for adoption. So Snowflake is doing this well. Of course, there are many startups who are adopting this model, this very popular model. Over time, you can encourage sustainable organic growth as well. As you move along tier pricing, you can scale your engagement over time. So it's a very good model to track, and it's a differentiator. It's a very important differentiator because you can differentiate your brand, of course, and your solution from companies with more rigid subscription models. Something to note though, many SaaS underestimate the complexity of metering and billing, especially for this model. You need to have robust, of course, tracking usage. You need to make sure you align with the customer patterns, understanding how they use your solution well, and align with your business goals overall to make sure that this model is profitable over time.
So next we have premium-based pricing. Is it? Yeah, premium-based positioning and pricing. We have the example of Apple. It's obvious, right? They are adopting at least their flagship models. They are adopting a premium approach to signify that it's a luxury branding. It is bringing loyal customer to keep coming back to them and buying the next model launch, right? I mean, that's their way to cream the market, their strategy to cream the market. To me, if a company, any startup or company were to adopt premium pricing, a couple of considerations. First, you want to make sure, actually, it's a bit ironic, right? But you think about it, you need to make sure you control your costs. Because, yes, you have a certain price there, but you have to control costs while preserving quality standards. Because no business will be doing steady profit margins for foreseeable future. They want to ensure, because why? Overhead cost is always rising. The cost of manpower is always rising. So you want to make sure that from a gross profit standpoint, you want to bring in some cost discipline. For Apple, supply negotiation, they are doing that I know it for a fact. Like I've worked with some Apple suppliers, and Apple can squeeze people, right? Especially if you have volume. And man, yeah. Second one is that if you go by this pricing model, you can actually have metrics. You can develop tracking metrics and segment it to different types of customer segments and their contribution margin, and how, and more importantly, the impact on the brand investment. Because intuitively, by going premium, you have to invest on branding, and this is usually upfront. So you, in my mind, you want to think about how your different segment of customers will contribute towards your break even of your brand investment. And your branding doesn't just, it's not a one-off, right? It's constant iteration. So you need to keep this cycle of thought going on as well. And thirdly, maybe not a lot of people may recognize this, but working capital optimization. Because why? Your cost price is definitely higher than your competitors, right? For example, Apple versus Xiaomi. Xiaomi would be, they don't really care about whether they have inventory or not. I mean, they do, but it's less painful if, let's say, they mismanage. Because why? Every single dollar that Xiaomi builds the phone, Apple maybe spend 250. So what about dead stocks, right? How do you address that? How do you manage your suppliers? Because now you need to pay your suppliers more. Xiaomi may be paying 50% less because they squeeze on that side, and their positioning is also lower. So some of this are consideration that is not so evident on the surface. Yeah.
So Apple is a classic example of premium brand positioning, and premium pricing is telling the story of a brand. High price signals exclusivity, innovation, and this is why most of us are buying Apple as well. It's not only because they have superior product. It's not about just features. It is about highlighting brand desirability. Premium pricing is a moat. It's about creating exclusivity. And what Apple is doing well is when you buy Apple products, you're not buying just, you're buying Apple to belong to an exclusive community. And this exclusive club create ecosystem stickiness over time. So it ensures long-term retention because you're going to buy more Apple product over time. So premium pricing, it's really work, but price and value are different things. And it's very important for premium pricing to focus on brand and emotional resonance for your target consumer or target audiences.
Next, and our final example is similar to the question that the gentleman asked about AI company. So value-based pricing or freemium model, right? Encourage adoption, lower the barrier of entry for your customers. And I think just now we talked a bit about how do you address what the customer can accept and what the business needs. So this helps to also explain some of that. To further add that, the implications of using this approach is that you need to really measure your unit economics. Free to the consumer means cost to you. So what is the conversion, percentage of conversion and time to conversion, and how long can you prolong that? It also, by adopting this model, if you were to go up there, it also means that you need to be decently well funded, because you just need to be able to burn, which is like in the investment world today is a bad word to say cash burn, right? Too much cash burn, right? But if you're going by this is a way of life or a fact. So you have to watch that carefully. And I think we also have to think about, this is more technical on the finance end, but really about forecasting deferred revenue. Because if you think about it, okay, just hypothetically, you are a startup, you are using this model, you are giving a freemium approach first, but in your financial plan or business plan, you are forecasting that these guys will eventually convert within a certain period. Question, how are you going to accurately forecast that? There's no one single solution, but it's a matter of whatever that you choose, is it able to convince the reader of it? Do they buy into your idea? right? So forecasting is tricky, to be honest. Like if I were to see this, I would actually discount the conversion percentage. And even do my own analysis of what is some typical conversion out there in a similar space. Yeah. I mean, me as an investor lah. Yeah. Yeah. So next.
So value-based pricing is also a very powerful model to grow your marketing engine, to grow your business, because you maximize initial adoption. And the question is, what is a fair value for your product or your solution? What is the value you want to pay for that solution? So a lot of companies start with a freemium model that is very popular. It's reduced friction. It's easier for a lot of people like us using AI tools to get familiar with the tool. But it's really value-led, right? It's focusing on how you convert the value you deliver over time to your users and customers. It's also very data-driven, and a lot of people forget to realize that freemium works very well, but it's a value play, it's a volume play, and you need to be able to convert over time your free users, right? If you think the product will or your solution will sell by itself, you will miss the mark for your price strategy when you adopt this model. So how to convert? You need to be very intentional. You need to understand the psychology of your audience. Your question about psychology is very important, and it's all about iterative testing along the way. So I stop there. Just to wrap up a little bit before we take more questions. We've seen 3 case studies today. One is usage pricing, premium pricing, value-based pricing. Something to note is a lot of people get confused between usage pricing and value pricing. These are 2 customer-centric pricing models, but the focus is very different. One is more on value, the other one is on usage. It's all about tracking your metrics and getting the metrics and the data right when you track your usage. Maybe just a final word. To me, the best pricing model is not about what competitors do. It's really about understanding the difference between price and value. It's about aligning your price with the customer psychology, aligning the marketing with the finance function. And if you have that alignment, I'm sure you will have the right pricing model for your customers.
Yeah, with that, next slide. We have taken some questions along the way, but I think we have about 5-10 minutes, if I'm not wrong. Happy to answer any questions on pricing, if there's any. Yeah, behind. So I guess before responding, maybe for the benefit of the audience, can you elaborate on what this is for the white collar? I can take that first. And you're saying when you're doing enterprise sales or B2B sales, how do you manage that pricing increase? It's just, okay, it may not be a great answer, but the way I see it is that is different customers in your adoption curve, right? Some are early believers. You give them the cheaper, the sort of the best deal. And then once you have, because you must understand, you're also in tandem developing your product. So you are encouraging early adopters to use so that you get more data to better your product usage. So you have sort of the price or think about pricing is because your product just gets better and better. If you know what I mean. I mean, this might not be a very good example to explain from maybe a more of a marketing question on how to do that. But if I were to think of it as a strategy, it's not illogical, like per se. Like question? Yeah. Yeah, you. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yep. And based on the perspective of marketing and how can we like differentiate ourselves and reduce the urge of going into price competition? So basically just lower the cost you can actually do. That is like a very disruption from the whole system. What's your niche? If you are doing an AI startup, what's your niche? Are you niching in a certain sector? Are you niching because you have a certain skill set that other AI peers don't have? Yeah. So, I mean, that would be what I would do in a competitor analysis. Although Anthony, he doesn't quite agree, right? Like
it's a great question, actually. My question to you is, what is the value you deliver to your customer, right? At the end of the day, people will see your price and will buy your product based on the perceived value you deliver to them. And based on that, you don't need to go to a price war. You can calibrate your price based on your confidence on the value or the perceived value you deliver to your customers.
And I mean, just to add, are you running an AI startup? Okay, because I would say that because this whole theme about AI is actually quite new. What we said may not be. There's so much volatility in the whole industry, so we can't say that just by. We cannot be prescriptive over such things because we myself are also figuring out what's going on. So at least that's how I look at it. In fact, this is one thing I'm also studying. I need to get. It's such a 3 years ago. There's no such industry. Yeah. So what have I got to be? What am I able to? I'm also trying to wrap my head around that, per se. But one thing at least my preliminary thought is that what is your niche that you're going into, and then you determine whether is that sufficient for you to discriminate on your pricing, and if not, you no choice because the trend is going to get commoditized, and all costs is just going down to race to zero. Sometimes it isn't a choice, like I said, it's not. We can live with the organizers, right? It shouldn't be prescriptive set of elements. It shouldn't be it should be more of it should create more discussion and thought around the context of what you guys are doing.